Hi, everyone, and welcome to Neck Alley, BookTrib, and Merrimass Media present 15 Minutes With. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Gabe Hudson. He is the author of Dear Mr. President, which was actually a finalist for the Penn and Hemingway Award. But his latest release that we're talking about right now is his debut novel, Gork the Teenage Dragon. It's absolutely adorable. If you want to see the cover, jump on Amazon. But we're talking all about it today. So welcome, Gabe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. So let's chat. Gork, the Teenage Dragon. Tell us about the story. This is your first debut fiction, and what we should really know about Gork himself.
Well, I think the thing to bear in mind is that Gork he lives in a militaristic society. The dragons, they're very sort of like macho, but he himself is not. He has 2-inch horns, and he has a very big heart, a gigantic heart, both literally and metaphorically. He's very sensitive. And he attends this military academy where there are all these other dragon cadets. And it's the day that the novel takes place on is called Crown Day, and it's when seniors at this War Wings military academy, senior dragons, must present their crown to a female dragonette, and if she accepts, then they launch in a spaceship together to go conquer another planet and start a colony. So I think a little bit of the idea was it's kind of like a little bit of a John Hughes movie meets, dragons at a military academy on a different planet.
Oh my goodness. Wow, there is some creativity going on there. So BuzzFeed, I mean, you're getting all kinds of notice for this debut. BuzzFeed has included Gork as one of 22 exciting books you have to read this summer, and they're not the only ones kind of taking notice. What's the attention and the coverage mean to you at this point as the author of Gork?
That's a great question. It actually means everything, because when you write a book that is this creative and this peculiar, for a long time it's just you dreaming it up and writing it. And for a long time, really just me believed in Gork as an actual dragon. And then to see him embraced and to see his sensibility embraced and for people to get it, it really makes you feel very optimistic for humanity, to be perfectly frank.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what for you was the inspiration behind Gork? What kind of brought him to the page, brought him alive for you?
Well, I will say that I had owed my publisher of my debut novel for 12 years. So it was just this gigantic rock. I was, this cloud. And I had written a bunch of different things, but it didn't move me. It didn't create the joy I was looking for. Then all of a sudden, Gork's voice just appeared. The first 2 pages of the book are the first 2 pages I wrote. And they were so peculiar, but so compelling. And from that point forward, I just let the voice sort of guide me. I think also I've often had this notion that society may expect us to be a certain way. If you're depending on what your gender is or where you are in society, there are these expectations, and perhaps you might look like the kind of person who would adapt to those expectations, but in fact you feel very different inside. So that was a huge sort of guiding light for me as I wrote the book. And I think the other thing is, well, for me, for instance, growing up, I'm sort of a large person and very tall. And so everybody would always expect me to be extra macho or extra tough, but I actually felt very sensitive inside. And, I was quite moved by, different movies and so forth. So I think in many ways, Gork was an expression of my own experience. I also had this idea that based on The Hobbit and other depictions of dragons in books and movies, they're often regarded as a monster, as the other, something different from what we are.
Right.
And so after that seemed not a humane perspective. I thought to myself, well, who are these dragons and what do they feel like? And do they have a complex psychological makeup? And do they have loves and desires and fears too?
Sure.
And so it was just immensely gratifying to infuse a dragon with those qualities.
Absolutely. And what a story it makes for, I'm sure. Is Gork a standalone? Are you hoping to build on the story, or?
Love that question. I think Gork would love to tell more stories.
Okay.
That voice is very strong in my mind still. I think there's a sense of waiting to see what the response would be if he is embraced. But I do feel very confident that no matter what, I will build upon the world that he comes from. That, there could be a kind of mythology like a Terry Pratchett. He had his Discworld series, something in that mode, if nothing else.
It's interesting. I just spoke with Worldbuilding with another author recently, and you brought up a lot of different worlds and a couple of people that you referenced. So it's such an interesting dynamic, those who write story, but also build such an intricate world. What was that experience like for you in writing the world and trying to keep it while keeping up with Gork's story?
It was immensely challenging and immensely gratifying because while you write, you have the skeptic on your shoulder. You yourself are saying, oh, that can't be right. That can't be right. But then there's the other person or whatever on your shoulder saying, make it work. Make it work. This is great. It's very exciting. And it's giving us a new way of looking at existence. And so ultimately, those two sort of grapple. And then you use your skill, your craft as a writer to kind of try to bring it about and make it feel as real and emotionally resonant to the reader as possible. Right. But I do love that experience. And I do feel as if I've built this terrain and in a sort of a society that I could easily go back to. It would be very fun.
Amazing. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about your personal background and what you were doing before you started writing, or did your background lend to the story at all?
I think it did. I've done a little, done some therapy in my life, and so I get a better sense of perhaps how things from my life impacted the book. But I'm an only child, and so when I was 5 years old, my parents divorced. Okay. And at that time, you don't have a sibling to even talk to say, sure. It's just you and that parent and then that parent. So I really took refuge in books, and I just read a lot. And I think the fact that Gork is, I think it's okay to say he starts off as an orphan because his parents' spaceship crashed when they were on their way to Earth, and he's sort of living alone for the first couple of years. I think that probably speaks somewhat to my experience, although when I was writing it, I didn't know or recognize that. It just felt very exciting and true. And I come from Austin, Texas, and, both my parents really encouraged me to read. At the same time, it's very macho there at times, and everybody plays football. And so I took an undergraduate creative writing course at the University of Texas, and I met a wonderful professor there. And then from there, I went to the Brown MFA program. Yeah. And studied with wonderful people. And then I sold my car it's like, I don't know how, it wasn't much money. And I had these traveler's checks because it was so long ago. And I moved to New York City with like a $1,500 worth of traveler's checks and like a partial manuscript. And I just got very fortunate. Dave Eggers is an early advocate of mine and published me in McSweeney's a lot. And so I met him when he was in New York, and he put me in touch with an editor. And then I got the 2-book deal. And so it all happened fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are also the author of Dear Mr. President, which is a compilation of short stories for those who don't know it, but it won the Sue Kaufman Prize for first fiction. It was a recipient of the Hodder Fellowship from Princeton University, and a bunch of other notorieties surrounding that book. The process of putting that book together versus writing this fiction debut, what was that like for you? Were there differences? Did you find one was more difficult than the other?
Well, I think writing is always challenging. So, I mean, and I'm not saying anything you don't know. It's just I say it loud. At the time, that first book, Dear Mr. President, that was the best I could do at that time. And I learned a lot about writing on a sentence level and how to create emotional intensity and humor, because stories are more compact and compressed. But then I also knew that I really wanted to learn how to write a long narrative and to sustain a character. And so that's what I had to learn with Gork. And I really want to credit my editor, because he would always ask me, I mean, it was really strange to sit in these restaurants for these very nice lunches and have him give me the piece of paper with the notes and say, okay, now here's what I'm thinking. Dr. Terrible, I think that Gork should be raised by machines, and the spaceship, and it's like they're, a very fancy restaurant, and he's speaking about all these very absurd things. But he would always ask me to go further out and deepen the emotional resonance. And so I'm very grateful to him. So I really did. So I would make the book more far out, but I would really try to enrich the emotional complexity of the characters.
Absolutely. Now, is the genre that Gork is, which is like a fantasy science fiction genre, is that where you're comfortable, where you want to stay moving forward, or are you open to moving outside?
I think that I want to stay there for sure. Okay. I did not know that was where I was comfortable. It just was a place I landed. I cannot tell you how surprised me 5 years ago would be to know, but also delighted, because that's the journey. It's like, it's a great surprise. It's a reveal to the writer as well.
Right, absolutely. So what's next after Gork? And I know Gork isn't here quite yet, but moving forward, I'm sure you're either already working on something for 2018 or something else is happening in 2017. What's next for you?
Well, I'm working on a second book that has Gork in it.
Wonderful.
And it's such an imaginative landscape that I know if I need to, I can always pivot and use elements of that in a different. But the idea or plan is to publish, to write another novel, and to not take a long time, just like write with a great deal of joy. And I really feel like I've kind of found a nice rhythm. And I love the people I work with, my editor, all the people at Knopf. It's like really a team effort.
Amazing. So I always like to ask this at the end, because I find it really an interesting parallel, and we have kind of come to the end of our chat here. What about you as a reader? What are you reading anything right now? What are you like? What's on your bedstand? Where does that stand?
That's a great question. I can tell you about a book that I'm looking forward to. It's by a writer named Alex Gilvari. It's called Eastman Was Here. Okay. And he's a young-ish writer. This is his second novel. And it takes place in New York City in the 70s. It's about a failed writer who then has an opportunity to resuscitate his career And so he gets assigned to cover the Vietnam War, but he is not able to. And Alex is like a wonderful writer and very funny. And I'm very excited about his novel.
Oh, interesting. So for you, do you feel as though you go outside of your genre in reading? Or are you interested in reading within your genre that you write in?
I'm interested in any sort of good story, I think, but I'm really interested in my genre. That's predominantly, I look for things that are like super exciting, imaginative, funny,
Right.
and also very moving. Like to me, it's so important to like make your reader feel stuff deeply.
Emotion. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, those are the ones that hit home, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Gork probably does that because he sounds like an amazing little teenage dragon. So we cannot wait to read it. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. We're all really excited about Gork coming out. So excited to get our hands on it. And everyone else, you can, I think, pre-download it right now on Amazon, or if you're watching this down the line, go get it now if you haven't yet. Anyways, thank you so much, Gabe. It was great to talk today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.